Hi guys, my name is Tamara and welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for continuing to watch my videos. And if you like what you see, hit that like button as well. Now, today we're going to talk about tips and strategies to get promoted. Now, I have had a career that has spanned well over 20 years. The moment I joined a company that had opportunities to grow, within a 10-year span, I was promoted 7 times. So I'll share some strategies that I used with you, and I want you to comment below. What are some of the strategies or tips that you have that you can share with us that you use to grow in your own career? Let's all learn together. Now, tip number one, be intentional. When I started out my career, well over 20 years ago, probably almost 30 years ago, my first job was a customer service rep in retail. And I was happy for the job. I was happy to be employed. But my salary was the equivalent of what is now 10 US dollars per week. And even though I was grateful for the job, I quickly realized that that salary was not going to allow me to live the life that I wanted to live. And it was then I decided that I wanted to have a successful career. When you are intentional, you're taking ownership of that process, right? I wrote down my goals. I looked for other persons who were successful. What field were they in? What kind of jobs were they doing? How did they get there? How did other people get promoted to the positions that I wanted to be in? And I crafted up my own goals, and I put together some strategies that I thought would help me to eventually have that successful career. The first thing that I realized I needed to do, which is tip number two, is get the skills required. I realized that I needed to get certified. I needed to go back to school because I just did not have the skills. At that time, I had just left high school. So I only had a high school education. And where I wanted to go at that time, I thought about IT. It was it was very popular. A lot of jobs were opening up in the field of IT. So I decided to go back to school to get certified in information sciences. And I got a job shortly after that as a software developer in a Fortune 500 company. And when I looked at the company that I was now in, I realized that there were a lot of opportunities to grow. So I set about making sure that I spoke to other persons who were in the positions I wanted to be in, right? Those persons who were managers, managing large numbers of employees. I found out how they got there, what was the path that they took to get there. And then I set about working hard on getting the experience. I wanted to make sure that once the opportunity showed up, that I was prepared. I never wanted to see an opportunity and then realize that I can't capitalize on it because I didn't prepare myself. And I'll tell you something, by the time I was being promoted to a vice president, I didn't even see it coming. My boss at the time was the vice president of that division I was in, and she had moved on. And I really thought they were just going to hire another vice president. And the managing director at the time came to Jamaica. I was in Jamaica, and he met with me and asked me if I thought I could do the job. And of course, at that time, I was definitely ready, nervous, but I had had the experience. I was working closely with other leaders to see exactly how the job was done. And what it meant was my leadership saw that I was prepared and felt confident, even before I was thinking about it, that I could actually do the job. Very important to prepare yourselves ahead of time for future opportunities that may come your way. Tip number three, Be the obvious choice. This has a lot to do with protecting your personal brand, making sure your personal brand is a strong one. You have to look the part, you have to act the part, you have to exceed expectations, and you definitely have to be willing to take on additional roles, even if you're not getting additional pay. So let's start with looking the part. The school from which I come is you dress for the position that you want. It is very important to look like the position. That way, persons are already seeing you moving in a way that tells them that you're ready for the role, right? It is important, even if you're not formally dressed, right? A lot of companies these days are not very formal when it comes to attire, but you definitely are going to have to make sure you are well kept, right? Your hair is groomed nicely, your nails are clean. All of these things are important because people see you first. They're developing an impression of you. So it's important that they know that you take good care of yourself. And anywhere you go, the way how you carry yourself is going to represent their brand very well. You're going to be able to represent the company's brand very well. Now, that's looking the part. Let's talk about acting the part. How do you treat others? Do you treat others with respect? That's important because one thing I learned early is you do not know who your boss may be, and you do not know who might end up reporting to you. And it's going to be very important that because of this, you don't know what's going to happen. You're treating everybody with respect. And that's just a part of having a good value system, right? Treating others the way how you would want to be treated. Are you somebody that gossips? Do you speak negatively about your peers, about your leaders, about your company? If that is the case, the challenge that you're going to face is others will not respect you. And if you are not respected, you cannot be placed in a significant position within the company, right? Because that's going to impact the company's brand. And the company is going to be concerned that if you are a wrong fit because you are not using your words carefully, you're not using them to uplift others and to promote positivity within the work environment, then there's going to be the concern that if you are a leader, you're only going to create a toxic work environment. And that's going to prevent you from getting promoted. I find that a lot of people, when they're not happy with where they're working, they speak very, very negatively about their job, right? I have a rule where that is concerned. As long as I'm at that company, and I'm getting paid to do a job, I'm going to go there, I'm going to do my best. And if the situation is one that I really dislike being there and I can't be there anymore, I don't want to be there anymore, then I look for other alternatives outside of that organization versus showing up every day and just speaking negatively about where I work. I don't think that's good form and it's going to hurt you if you want to progress and be promoted in that same organization. Let's talk about exceeding expectations. You have to perform. You have to be outstanding when it comes to your actual work output, right? To be the obvious choice, it has to be a part of your brand, your performance standards. Like everybody should know that when you are at work, you're exhibiting the right work ethic, right? You're coming to work on time, you're focused on the job, you're giving your very best effort, you are a team player, and you know how to be successful. That's going to be important. Everybody wants a successful team player or leader on the team, and you have to be able to demonstrate that. Let's talk about volunteering and taking on additional responsibilities. And I'll share a story on this one. When I was working in the IT department in this Fortune 500 company, there was a project there. It really wasn't an IT project per se, it was more of a compliance project. And they were asking, who would want to take on this project, and nobody really wanted to do it. And I was curious about it. And I was asking, a couple of my coworkers, why aren't you, doing this project? And they were very clear, it's not going to come with any additional compensation, right? Or salaries is not going to be increased. And so we're not going to take that on because that's just extra work. And one of them even said to me, Tamara, we know you're pretty new, but don't go volunteering for that because you're going to have to do that along with your existing job. And I said, okay, but I was still curious. And I tried to find out whose project was this? Like, which stakeholder in the company needed support on this project? And it turned out that the vice president of the division I was in was the one that had this project that needed the support. And I thought about this because you have to be strategic when it comes to your career. And I said to myself, well, volunteering for this is going to give me extra experience, right? I'm going to get additional experience. And I will also now be more visible to senior stakeholders. So if I'm able to do a good job, then there are other leaders in the company that will be able to see that my work ethic is strong and I'm able to do a good job, and maybe that will put me in a better position to be promoted when an opportunity came along. So I volunteered to do this project. It took probably about 8 to 10 months to complete this project. It was a lot of hard work because I had my existing job to do. I did not get any additional compensation at all. But what happened was, when the project was done and it was successful, my vice president was happy with the job that I did. And there were some openings for project managers at the time. And I was selected to go on a trainee program to become certified as a project manager. Sometimes you don't know where your opportunities will come from. And it's very important that you always display a willing attitude. And sometimes you may need to take on additional responsibilities, but it will pay off in the end. Tip number 4, say it. Say it. Say you want to be promoted. Tell your managers that you have an interest in advancing your career with the organization. Um, I find that a lot of people are hesitant to do this. And I'll tell you a quick story. One evening, while I was working in that same IT department, I was leaving work and I ended up at the elevator with the head of the local company at the time. She was a managing director. And I was so nervous, right? Because it was just her and I standing right there at the elevator. The elevator doors open. It was just the two of us that were in the elevator. We were stepping in. And she turned to me and she said, Tamara, do you like working in IT? And I said, yes, I do. It's okay, yes. And she said, well, what do you really want to do? And I said, I want to be a manager. I want to have a successful career and I want to be able to lead operations. And she said, okay. She never said anything else. I was just so nervous. I was, so worried that I didn't say the right things and all of that. You know how that can feel when all of a sudden you are facing the head of the company and they're asking you questions. But ultimately, what happened was this managing director had to sign off on the candidates that would be selected to become project managers. And you know what? She remembered that I wanted to advance in my career. And then she saw how I performed with that project that I had volunteered for. And this is where people say, you know what? The stars aligned. Okay. And I was able to get certified as a project manager, get promoted in officially into the project management position. And after that, I had many other promotions until I ultimately got to the level of vice president. And something I want to share with you about goal setting. When I started that job in IT, I remember this was 2002. I did my vision board, I wrote down my goals, and I said I wanted to be a vice president, and I needed to determine for myself what time period seemed realistic. So, under my 10-year goals, I wrote, I will become vice president in 10 years. Now, on my 10th year anniversary, I wasn't VP, but 10 years, 3 months later, so just 3 additional months later, I was offered the vice president job. And, you know, things just came full circle for me. It happened when I didn't even expect it, right? At that time, I didn't even have to apply for that position. It was because during those 10 years, I was able to solidify a brand of a team member that leaders could rely on. And I ultimately got that role. So I hope that this encourages you. I know sometimes it's not easy, it's hard work. Sometimes we're working long hours depending on the field that we're in. But if you are intentional, if you are intentional about your career and your success, you will be successful. I hope this video was of value to you today. See you next time. Take good care. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Until next time, bye bye.